Hey, fam, and welcome to the tripod. We're identical triplets and your co hosts, Heidi, Heather, and Hope. This season, as you know, we're inviting our family members into our discussions, ones that focus primarily on what it was like growing up in a family with 10 kids. Now, you've heard from me, you've heard from Hope, you've heard from Heather, but today we're going to move to hearing from our siblings. With that, we'd like to welcome our oldest sibling, Deb. Hi, Deb. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
Deb.
Deb.
Deb is the firstborn child of our parents, Helen and Vincent, and is older than the three of us by 20 years. So it's going to be very interesting to hear Deb's perspective on what it was like growing up in our family system. We're super excited. We were the end of the 10. Deb is the start of the 10. So her perspective is likely going to be different than what you've already heard. So with that, let's get going. Hey, Deb.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us today. And I guess, why don't we start off with a mini bio? Maybe tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Sure. Well, of course, as the girls have said, I'm the oldest of the siblings, having been born during Harry Truman's presidency. Think about it, long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
a
not sure what
widow.
number president he was.
Huh?
I'm
Yeah.
not sure what number president he was.
I forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a widow of 8 years. I was married for almost 50 years, together for 51.
Wow.
I have a beautiful daughter and a wonderful son-in-law and 3 beautiful grandchildren. We had 2 children, but we lost our son to childhood cancer when he was 18 months old.
Mhm.
I've been a registered nurse for over 46 years. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in nursing from the University of Massachusetts in Boston, and I still work to keep my brain active. Um, Contradictory to what my retired friends they think I'm so crazy. That's okay. It does. It keeps me in the field, it keeps me active, it keeps me, knowledgeable of, what's happening in medicine, so I won't give it up until they ask me to leave.
Motion is
Um,
the lotion, Deb. Motion is the lotion,
Absolutely.
physically
Yep,
and cognitively. So good for you.
it is. No kidding. I also volunteer at our local senior center. I am what they call a shine counselor. In Massachusetts, we're called Shine, but in other parts of the country, we're called SHIP. But it's
Okay.
basically serving the health insurance needs of people, and I help them with their navigating Medicare and the state health insurance program, which actually I really, really enjoy. I love helping people save money. Um,
I think
so
that's
that's
awesome, Deb. Good for you for doing that. That's probably so
I really
incredibly
like.
helpful to so many people,
I
right?
mean, it's a little complicated, and you have to be up, trained and re-educated, certified, tested, but I really enjoy it. So I'm blessed to have a lovely family. I enjoy visiting my daughter and her family down south where she and her family reside. So that's me.
And Deb, we've recently heard about something called the Marblehead Citizens Academy. Maybe you've applied to that. I'm not sure any of us know what that is. Maybe
Uh,
tell us what it
well,
is.
I will tell you what it is. It's sponsored by the Marblehead Police Department, and it's called the Citizens Academy. Anybody can go through I think it's 6 or 7 week training. It's one night a week. Um, and you learn all about the police department. You learn about the court system. I think you have a field trip to court, a field trip to the local jail. You learn about fraud, telephone, and email fraud. It's just it's an awareness type of thing. It's a citizen awareness program, and anybody over 18 can apply. I have applied. I have not heard yet.
Yes, I love it. Well, we'll
Yeah.
keep fingers crossed for you because that
Thank
sounds like an awesome opportunity to learn some things. And yeah,
Yeah, one of
like
my friends did it, and she really loved it, so
that sounds like
that's
could be an excellent opportunity to learn. And
Yep.
wow, girls, very, very forward thinking. for the beautiful hamlet, the beautiful seaside hamlet of Marblehead's police department.
Exactly.
Yeah, looking out for, people that could be vulnerable to those kinds of things. So I think that that's awesome, Deb. And the three of us concur. You do have a beautiful family. Amy and her husband and children are incredible. So thank you for having her and for allowing us to enjoy them.
Yeah.
Thank you also for all the things that you shared about yourself. I learned a little bit about you actually just listening.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And yeah, all right. Well, we're gonna switch from biography to questions about what it was like growing up in the family system. So the first one I have for
Great.
you is, what would you say were some of the best parts of growing up in the system that we grew up in?
Sure. Well, it was, always having people around with lots of activity. I describe it as controlled chaos. Um, no, seriously, but there was never, you were never alone in the house. It was rare to be alone in the house. Sometimes it was very much welcomed. Um,
Deb,
but
what's interesting about that is that in each of the discussions that the three of us have had already about growing up and navigating our family,
Mhm.
we concur with you. One of the best things for all of us was always having people around. So it's really
Yeah,
interesting
good.
that
Yeah.
that's something that you feel, was a good thing as well.
And it's interesting because I have some friends that were an only child, and they always say that the one thing they regret in life is that they didn't have any siblings. So,
Yeah.
Well, and it's really interesting. You remember our next door neighbor, Heather Melanson, who was
oh
Heather
God,
N.
yeah,
I was Heather
yeah,
F.
right,
Um,
Heather, yep,
I was recently talking to her, and you just talked about, friends who are only children, and she was an only child, and she loved being in our house with our
I
family
know,
because there were
I know,
always people there. And can't wait to join
adopted child.
she can't wait to join
Yeah,
us on the podcast too. So we'll hear from Heather F.
yeah,
too.
And
she was an adopted child.
Deb,
Yeah,
I know you're answering that question about what were some of the, best parts of it, but it's funny that
mhm,
you guys are talking about that because I don't know if this ever happens to you, and I think it has everything to do with the fact that we grew up and there was just people around us at all time. We were never alone.
yeah,
But like I'll be, driving somewhere, like it's 5 hours from where I live to where my in-laws live. So like, some of the back roads in like the southern part of the US. And like, I see one house and then like maybe, 300 yards later, I see another house.
right, exactly.
Instantly, I just am like, there is no way I could ever choose to live here. And I don't know if it's like
I
something
have
about me
thought
has
the
that
same things
reaction.
happen
Yeah.
down south when especially through North and South Carolina, and they're just the houses are so far apart, and I think to myself, I would never wanna be alone in a house at night
Yeah.
on those barren roads.
The isolation,
Really?
but I honestly think though, part of it is like what I like sort of what I imagine it would be like to be in that
Mhm.
isolated place because we never were isolated
Yeah,
growing up. You know what I
right,
mean? It's almost like this
right.
felt sense of like there's something about it that would just be awful. So anyway,
Yeah, it's funny 'cause, in Amy's development, which you've been in, Heidi, it's, very quiet and very dark at night,
yep.
extremely dark, and, Bill always Bill always says Amy's a city girl, she would rather live out on the highway. She would rather live out on the highway, so she saw all the
Great
activity that was
neighborhood.
going on. Yeah, 'cause she misses that, yeah. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, it was nice watching everybody grow up and, mature through different phases of their life, different challenges and the good and the bad challenges. I'm very proud of our family. All 10 have been educated have bachelor's degrees and 7 have advanced degrees in their fields. And, I'm blessed to know that all of us are still living, which is pretty rare, and have wonderful kids and grandkids. Together there are 21 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren. Think about it.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that, mom and dad never really got to know, many of them. They'd be so proud of all the kids today.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
that just made me sad.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
sad.
It is
Yeah.
sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, they
Uh,
knew Amy and, Matthew, and Pete.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mom
that
and
was it
Pete.
pretty much, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How when dad died,
Yeah.
how
1982.
how long had Matthew been gone for?
Um, 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Only
Yeah.
5. Wow.
Matthew died in 1977?
77.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, so
Gosh.
hard to believe.
I know.
Yeah. You
So
guys were what, 8?
Yeah,
about that,
7
yeah.
or 8, yeah,
7 or 8, yeah.
yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
'Cause
Young. Yeah.
Was Amy 2?
Huh?
Was Amy 2 at the time? I mean, I'm
No.
sorry. Sorry,
Amy
sorry, sorry.
Oh,
as
Amy I was thinking Matthew.
she was
It
Matthew
was
yeah.
was
either 7
1.
or 8, Amy would have
I know. Oh,
been.
no, Aim was just a year younger than us. I know. I was thinking about
Yeah.
Matthew.
Yeah. So Deb, so loved hearing about, what you thought was good about growing up in the family, just always having people around and, love the fact that you said you were proud of our family. I think, each of us
Absolutely.
the
Everybody's
same
proud
thing.
of everybody's accomplishments. Yeah.
Um, so tell us from your perspective, what were some things that were challenging for you, right? Because you being the first,
Mhm.
you saw children being added, right, to the family. You were the first, you were all by yourself, and
Mhm. Of
then, pretty quickly, right? Because there's not a
course, I
big
don't
man,
remember being all by myself
right? Because you
because
were that little, right?
when I look at pictures, it was me, Vin, Mark, Keith was a baby. I mean, that's the older pictures because
Yeah,
cameras, not many people had cameras back then.
Yeah.
So there
You were
weren't there weren't a lot of pictures, you know. Um,
yeah.
you were not
but
the selfie generation, Deb. You were not the selfie generation.
I don't remember being alone,
Right, you were
because there
too
was
little, right? Because Vin's what? I mean, Vin came
we were so close, together. I do remember when Pam was born.
you remember when
Um,
Pam was born? How
yep,
old were you
I
when Pam
remember
was
when
born?
she was born because 55, because mom had to stay in the hospital, a little longer because she had a operation on her veins.
Hmm.
So she
After
stayed a
Pam
little
was
longer.
born?
Yeah, she stayed
Okay,
right in the hospital. I'll never forget that, yeah.
okay. And how old were you when Pam was born? Just remind us.
7.
7. Wow,
You were 7.
okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, so talk a little bit about, some things that you perceive to be challenging growing up in our family.
Well, in my opinion,
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
there was an expectation to be independent and to be responsible.
Mm.
There certainly was it wasn't a time when any kids in our generation were coddled, that's for sure. Um,
Much
you
different
know,
than
and
today, right?
in my early years, it was the 1950s and 60s, a very, historically a very different time.
Mhm.
Um, what I mean is there was an expectation to put your big girl pants on and get over it whenever whenever you had a
Yeah.
problem. Um, yeah, really. I mean, we were a middle class family. Dad had a good job, but there were lots of mouths to feed.
Yep,
There weren't a lot of extras. And as many of, my generation, we were well fed and we were clothed. But if you wanted extras, you got a job.
yep.
We all had jobs. My brothers had paper routes,
Mhm.
um, and, or jobs in little businesses. Vin and Mark, Vin worked with, um, you know, Mr.
Right, great.
Frito
Yeah, right.
painting.
Okay, yep.
Mark worked down at, the print shop. Um, yeah, I mean, and Keith had a paper route too. So we all had jobs.
Did you guys
And
were you expected to help financially with the
no, 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 no,
okay, so
no,
it was
no,
just for you, it
no.
was just money for I just was
Yeah,
curious,
if you
okay.
wanted if you wanted extras, you
Yeah,
you
you had to
got a
go
job.
fund it yourself,
So
yeah.
I so my first job, I started babysitting at age 11. Seriously, age 11,
That's so
okay?
young.
I had a mother's helper's job. I put a little sign in above Goodwin's store in the window.
It said
It
mother's
said,
helper.
"Mother's helper." And literally, a woman in Marblehead that, was very well known, she hired me on the spot. She had, 3 kids.
Who was it, Deb?
So,
Who was the
Mrs.
woman?
Booth Mrs. Booth,
Mrs. Booth?
yeah.
she live near us? Did she live near
She
Orange
lived on
Street or
High Street. She lived on
Orange
High
Street?
Street,
Okay.
so it was on the way home from Gary's school. I just went right down Elm Street. Um, so, I went every day after school from 3 to 5,
Wow.
and while she went out and did errands, or even maybe if she stayed in the house, doing stuff. But during my 2 hours, I did laundry,
That's
I
good.
cleaned up the kitchen, and I made sure the kids were safe,
At 11,
all
you're
for thir all for 35 cents an hour.
yeah, I was
Right.
gonna ask if you remembered what she paid you.
I absolutely I made $3.50 a week, and I thought I was rich.
It was a
Seriously,
lot of money back
Probably were
it was
a lot
probably.
of money.
What would
relative to your friends, I bet.
what do you think that would be equivalent to today?
Oh god, I don't know. I mean, what do people make babysitting these days? I don't know.
An outrageous amount of money per hour. Yeah,
Well, it
what
gets better.
young
And
kids
15 or
that job e that
uh,
job ended because she had a new baby. Molly was the baby, and she and Mrs. Booth needed she needed an older girl to babysit. So,
Mhm.
but through word of mouth, I got lots of babysitting jobs. Um,
well, Deb, I
and,
just think about the experience that you had with your own siblings, right? Like,
oh, yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, but,
sort of natural,
the
right?
constantly had jobs. We were never at if I couldn't do it, Pam could if she, when she was ready, or, we switched off. Um, but I remember distinctly, I'll never forget this, driving home from a job I had, a job I had for a long time. I was a freshman in college, and the dad was giving me a ride home, and he said, "Deb, because you're in college, you've done a great job, so we're gonna increase you from 50 cents an hour to 75." Seriously. I'm not kidding you, 75 cents an hour.
but that's a big
That
increase from 50 to 75 cents an hour.
It was. It was, yeah. It was, yeah. It was, but some of the things you remember distinctly,
Yeah.
that was definitely one of them. So my point is we all pitched in. We had chores, everybody had chores.
Mhm.
I don't recall if you guys did. Did you? I
I
can't
don't know if
remember.
we had like, I don't know that they explicitly
Oh, we
said,
did.
"Here are the things
It
you
was
have
e
to
it
do."
was an equal opportunity household. We did dishes, the boys did dishes, they ironed. If you couldn't do your night for some reason, um, you had to pay somebody to do it.
Did
The
you
boys would give 20
Deb,
25 cents for dishes or iron a shirt.
out of curiosity, did mom or dad create a schedule so that you all knew what you were doing
Yes,
when?
absolutely, you had a week at a time.
You had a week
You
at
had
a
a
time.
week
So
at a time. Yeah,
for example, if
you
you were
could do
doing the
dishes.
dishes, you were doing them for a full
I
week.
don't know, like, I was a candy striper at Mary Alley, so I did that on Monday, so I was always late, um, getting home, and so I had to, either do them late or pay somebody to do them. And the boys, it was great making money when they were in high school because if they didn't wanna iron a shirt, I made 25 cents a shirt.
That's
Yeah,
probably why when we were young, like
yeah,
Keith and Mark and Vince would always be like, "Hey, kid, make me a cup of coffee. I'll give you 25
yeah,
cents for it or something," right? We
I could
did.
eat a
That's so true, Hyde, 'cause we didn't have, like, scheduled chores. I mean, we all made our beds and put our clothes
yeah,
in our hampers
We
and
did
there
stuff.
things
was an
around the house.
expectation.
Yeah.
There was
But
an
for us
expectation. Yeah,
for us, Deb, it's to your point, what Hyde just said, like, the boys, like, if we were gonna do dishes, they'd be like,
mhm.
"Which one of you guys wants to make a dollar doing dishes?"
Yeah, they
That's
always
there
gave us an
you
opportunity
go.
to do something for
Yeah,
money, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
but I have to interject that, you have to remember I spent the first 11 years of my life growing up in the city.
Right,
Ooh,
right,
Um,
right.
we
talk a little bit about that. Yeah, talk about
we
the
moved
transition from growing up
we
in
moved
the city
we
to
moved to the city we moved to the
Marblehead.
city when there were 5 of us, in the middle of the 5th grade during Christmas vacation. So I had half of the 5th grade at the St. Francis,
Oh,
half at the Gary School.
oh my god.
Um, well, it was culture shock, to
Yeah,
say the least. Um, it was very challenging because I had to leave my friends,
that's hard, Deb.
and make new friends, which was very hard at that age.
Yep.
And in a new
Pause
town.
for a sec, Deb. You were 11 at the time?
Yeah,
So you
Middle
all lived
middle of the 5th grade, one
you
half
lived
of
in
the 5th.
Charlestown until then. So you were born in
Yeah.
Charlestown? And
I was
then
born in Bo I was born in at St. Elizabeth's in Boston, yeah.
in Boston, and then you all lived in Charlestown and then moved to Marblehead when you were 11. So Pam would have been
Yeah.
4?
She was, yeah, she was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, for
So
you,
it was
you were saying how hard that was
it
for you.
was very different because, the kids in Marblehead, they had friends from kindergarten, and they weren't open to, new kids, and they made play dates, which I had never heard of because, you know, in the city, you went out if you want to be with friends, you went across the street, I know rang Susan Leahy's bell or Regina's bell, and they came out. There were always kids in the street playing, so you were never, at a loss. Plus, we had the Boys and Girls Club where we went swimming. It had lots of activities, sewing and all kinds of stuff. Um,
So
and
opportunity
then
for social
Yeah,
interaction.
and then we had the public pool in the summertime where we spent a great deal of time, or, my uncle used to take us all to, Nahant Beach.
Uncle Ed?
He would drop us off, and my dad would pick us up after work. So you
So
guys were
he would
just
just drop you
was
at the
nice,
beach and
like
leave, he wouldn't stay with you?
no, no, Uncle Ed did no. No,
So you
no.
guys were at the beach for, like, 8 hours?
Well, not quite 8, a long
Right.
time.
A long
Not
day.
not great when it started raining in the middle of the day, you know?
So Deb, so
But
why,
yeah, but, why did they move? Is
yeah,
that the next question?
yes,
Well,
it was.
they saw the city changing, felt it was time to move to the suburbs. There were lots of changes. There were, just politically and, it was just a kind of a crazy time.
Yeah,
Um, and, I was really unhappy for a very long time and basically until, I got to junior high and made other friends in high school. But um, you know, Marblehead's a beautiful seaside town, so, it's not the worst place to grow up. So, I eventually learned it was for the best.
But the
And
transition was what you're saying, the transition was
very hard, very, very, very hard. There was another girl in my class in the 6th grade. She came in the 6th grade. Her dad was in the Navy, so she moved around a lot. So she
hard
was
to
there for 6th grade, but then she moved again. So, but I made new friends in junior high from all around different schools. But, and I often wonder how my life would have turned out if we had stayed in the city. It's
yeah.
really interesting because I remember working with a girl at the health center who was in Vincent's class at St. Francis. And
that's
she
wild.
had lots of sisters, she had lots of sisters, so we actually I remember names from the past, and we talked about kids, um,
And kinda
and,
where they ended up, you mean?
yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, she's a nurse. Yeah.
Do you have an idea about how you think your life would have turned out had you guys stayed in the
I
city?
know I would have gone to a Catholic high school,
Okay.
um, because you started actually thinking about testing,
Yeah, to
um,
get into the
in the
schools.
6th grade,
Okay.
um, and there were a couple options. Um There were options for, the boys' Latin school or Julie Billiard. There were different schools, Mount Alvernia. I definitely would have gone to Catholic school because the public schools at that time were not good.
Mhm. In the
So
city.
I think that was probably another reason why the parents decided to move, because, Marblehead had a really good school system.
Mhm. Deb, while we have you here, actually, and this isn't, this is sort of an off the cuff question, but you lived with Dad's mom in Charlestown,
Yeah,
and so
I agree.
when you decided to leave the city to move to Marblehead, was that hard on her?
Yes, she
All of
stayed,
you?
but she actually had a stroke. Um and she had some vascular dementia as a result of the stroke,
I didn't know.
and,
Before you moved or after you moved?
after we moved.
Okay.
She came, she would cut dad would pick her up during on Friday and bring her, um,
To
home
Marblehead?
for the weekend, so she wasn't alone on the weekends. But, she was a very independent woman,
Mhm.
very yeah, talk about her, but it was hard on her, but then when she had the stroke, and she had some cognitive decline, she was, having difficulty living in the community, calling the police a lot, which is kinda common, with agitation and,
Mhm.
loneliness in someone with dementia.
Mhm.
So, she then, came to live with us, and she died actually in 1963.
And was that dementia caused by the stroke?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It is so fascinating to hear because, all 3 of us never had the opportunity to know any of our grandparents.
No, she was a tough woman, actually, uh, she, was a
Tough
community ad
grit?
yeah, she was a community advocate, she was a school teacher, she went to Boston Normal School, which is Mass Boston now was Boston S State, and she was a teacher, but in those days, when you got married, you couldn't continue to teach, you know that. Did
I
you
didn't
guys
know
know
that.
that?
I had
No.
no
Yeah, you could
idea.
not be a stay as a teacher if you were married.
Are
So
you kidding?
she went to work for the city of Boston in the welfare department,
Wow.
and as a result, even when she retired, she helped people. People were knocking on the door all the time or calling up. She was always doing favors for people in the community, whether it was helping them get financial aid or,
Yeah.
with welfare or food support. I remember waking up one morning, coming downstairs, and the family across the street was sleeping in the parlor
Wow.
Wow.
because the dad had, um, an
Lost.
episode, and,
Mhm.
they
Oh,
were
wow.
afraid to stay. Yeah, and she did a lot for veteran services too, so
So
Yeah,
kind of
I
sort of like doing some social work stuff?
Huh?
Do
Oh
so
god, yeah, she worked for the city of Boston in the Department of Welfare, so
Okay.
basically it was yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And people, you and interesting, this is so bizarre, when I went to work as a visiting nurse at JB Peabody, one of the women, Helen Conley, she asked about my background, and she said she grew up in Charlestown, and of course, she knew Marguerite. Her mother
Yeah.
knew Marguerite,
Wow.
um, and she had the same perception. She was a Spitfire. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I've always heard that she was a real force of nature and
Oh, yeah,
and
she
knew
was.
you, like,
Thank
knew
you.
everybody in the city.
She did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the stuff that you
One of
wish you could kinda
one
go
of
back
one of her fa
there.
one of her favorite people was a woman who was unhoused. Well, I think she had a house, but I'm not sure that I think she was,
Homeless, you mean?
her she really wasn't homeless, but she walked the streets with a cart,
Mhm.
um, and, she had mental illness,
Mhm.
um, and Nana was always, talking, she'd give her some food or whatever, and I think when she died, they found a lot of money in her cart, so she wasn't that,
That could
yeah,
destitute, yeah.
Bad off.
yeah,
That's
Did
yeah,
you
but
fascinating.
know
I had a lot I mean, I felt I had a wonderful life growing up in Charlestown, and
did you know grandfather's stroke, or had he
no,
died?
he had died no, he had died, yeah,
Okay,
he had died. Yeah, the
interesting.
only grandparents I knew were Marguerite, because mom's mom died when I was a year old.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
And
That's
mom's dad had passed before her
Yeah,
mom, right?
when she was in
Okay.
college, yeah, yeah, he died after surgery.
So really, you and the older siblings in our family really only knew Marguerite?
Yep. Oh,
That's
yeah, definitely.
I don't think I realized that.
I
I
didn't either,
Yep,
thought more of the grandparents were alive, but just dad's mom, that's
mhm,
interesting.
yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Um, Well, Deb, I mean, thank you so much for sharing, all the good and the bad that comes with growing up in a big family. So, I guess, if we move on a little bit and we talk about you and sort of your perception of yourself within our family, what kind of a role do you think you played within our family?
Well, I think as the oldest, you always feel a sense of responsibility. Um, but I also had the benefit of having my parents a lot longer than you did,
Hmm.
right? Dad was fond of reminding you of your age. If I did something he was unhappy about, you should know better. You're in your 16th year, but if it was something that he didn't want you to do, he'd say, "You're only 15."
That's so funny. That's really funny.
He dumbed it down. That was yeah, that was
Circumstantial.
definitely yeah. Well, like I said, when we moved when there were 5 children, um, Steph was born the following year
In
in
Marblehead?
'60. Yep. She was actually born in Marblehead at the Mary Ellie Hospital, one of the last babies born before they closed the maternity floor.
I think
Wow.
And
she's the only one in our family that was actually born in Marblehead.
Marblehead?
she's a true Marbleheader, Stephanie is, yeah.
Yeah,
Clippy would be proud of her, right?
exactly. Cliff would love that.
Yeah, and like I said, then, Faith was born 6 years later when I was a freshman in college. I
Wow.
had already graduated. Mom came to my graduation pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow is right.
Then
Yeah.
you guys a little over 2 years later, so definitely there's a generation gap. 6 baby boomers and 4 Gen X. So big, big
Yeah,
difference.
Yeah.
sure.
But so most of my time in the house was when there were 6 people. Um, and I like to think that I was there for them whenever, it was needed.
Yeah.
I helped out the best I could. But then I got married when you guys were toddlers. So, I
Right.
wasn't in the house while you were growing up.
Right.
That's
Right.
right.
I know, yeah. It's
Were
wild to
you
think about.
were you still in the house when we were born?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
And
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
left there, like, soon thereafter?
And you got married. Yeah. When you guys were 6 months old.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Um, So, when dad suddenly passed away at 59, he left mom with 4 kids who were still in their teens.
Yeah.
Um, we you know, often talk about I think we all do how she managed it.
Yeah.
And there weren't even any drugs then. There were no antidepressants. She would definitely I would have said, "Mom, you
probably
need an
benefit.
antidepressant." And she'd give they weren't popular. They weren't popular then. Um,
Not at all.
um But it definitely took a toll on her, because she was ill for a long time and, she passed away at 68, ironically, on Mother's Day,
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, a few weeks before you guys graduated college.
yeah.
What, you graduated 2 weeks after that? Um, so I'm always saddened that you guys, didn't have the benefit of knowing her when she was young and vibrant, beautiful. I was fortunate enough, we used to do a lot of shopping trips into town, so seriously, no, so
Yeah,
I cherish
I
I
love that.
cherish that because you guys never had the opportunity to do that, so
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Deb, I was
Pam always tells the story, this is funny, Pam always tells the story, she was what? She was little, she went with mom to Boston on the bus, and they came home, when she was culture shock for her too, because when we lived in Boston, she'd get on the bus and go into Boston and leave the kid, Nana would take
Mom
care of the
would.
kids.
Okay.
So she had, she had a good she went out. She went out, she did errands, she had fun.
Navigate
Um,
the city, yeah.
and then she's in Marblehead, and you gotta take a bus to Boston, it's an hour to bus to Boston,
'Cause she
There's
never had her
and I
driver's license.
never got a license, no,
Which is
no, it's a good
crazy.
thing. She never got a license. I think dad tried to teach her drive once, and that was it.
Was
Um
she afraid to drive?
I'm not sure if she was afraid or if she just figured there's people around that can do it for me, so why should I do it? Um,
Well, she was also, I
But
mean, she grew up in East Boston, dad grew up in Charlestown, like,
yeah, yeah,
she took the train everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
didn't
one of
want to
those
Where
things, it's like
see.
if you grow up in the city,
Yeah,
you don't really need
yeah,
to.
I feel
yeah,
like, yeah, she didn't feel like there was a real need for it.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I still remember the '55 green Ford station wagon, but that we had in Charlestown. Anyway, to get back to my point, she and Pam went shopping in Boston. They came home. Pam always tells the story that they get off the bus um, at down by Howard's Corner,
Yeah,
and
Pleasant Street.
what was we had what's the bar there
Riptide.
that just got Riptide.
But
So she she said, "Let's go in and get something to eat." And of
not
course, all the
knowing
guys
not knowing what the
the
riptide
bar,
was.
but I mean, they serve food, so she went in. They had lunch at Riptide. Helen
But
was mortified with with the hat and the gloves
All dressed up, looking
into
beautiful,
the
and
river. Oh my god, so funny,
this
so
little
funny.
Pam alongside of her. That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, I mean, I'm sitting and I'm listening to you talk about mom and just, how sort of vibrant she was and,
oh yeah.
that she was fun and young and beautiful. And Heidi, Heather, for me, I'm loving hearing this because I don't remember mom that way,
Yes, I know. Yeah,
right?
Not at all.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that she won a beauty contest?
I
Miss
did
Mom?
Miss
not.
Boston Miss Boston Fire Department.
Oh, I wish we had some photos of that. Do we have photos?
Me too. Do
There
you
is
have photos
there
of
is
that?
there is a photo somewhere. Mark might have it. It's a picture
Oh,
of her
I'll send
holding an
it.
axe with a
Is
hat
that
on.
right? I
Seriously,
I love that. I
I'm
love
serious.
that.
I wouldn't tell a story about that. It's
Oh
true.
gosh. I mean,
True story.
I'll save my comment for when we talk about, like, what it was like to lose her in a little bit, but I guess the question, since we're talking about all this, is even though you sort of were in the home for a short period of time when
Mhm.
we were
Yeah,
born, what do
yeah.
you like, how do you think the family changed when the 3 of us sort of, became the surprise
8,
package?
9, and 10, like, surprise,
Well, I think it
surprise.
changed. I think it changed because there were so many older children, and then mom and dad had to start all over again raising babies, you know? Um, Mom was 46 when you guys were born.
Yeah.
Today they call it geriatric high-risk pregnancy.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um, the interesting fact about the birth is that neither she nor the doctor had any idea that she was having triplets.
Yeah.
You have to remember that they did not do ultrasound back in 1969.
right.
So, everybody was in for a big surprise in the delivery room,
And
especially
she never
Dr.
said
Belock. No.
anything about
Well,
feeling
she
that she
always
was
had
gonna
big
have more
babies.
time?
She always had big babies.
Okay.
She was pretty heavy, baby-wise. Um, and, I think she thought that maybe something was wrong,
Huh.
uh, because she used to feel your digits. She used to feel there were 3 of you.
Like
Well,
like
I was
sisters or two. Yeah.
yeah, and he'd say, "Come feel this teeth," and I'd say, "Mom, don't worry about it, everything's okay." But the problem was that your heartbeats were synchronized. So, Doctor Belock only got 1
Oh,
heartbeat,
perfect.
and
Yeah.
like I said, they didn't do ultrasound, so everybody was surprised. As a matter of fact, they delivered 2. Heather and Hope were born, and Doctor Belock thought, "Oh, great, twins." And then the OB nurse said, "Wait a minute, she's still having contractions," and Heidi
There she
yeah,
is.
there you go. Yeah.
Surprise. Just
Yeah,
It
ask.
I
is
mean,
it is fascinating. I mean, it's totally fascinating.
of course it is, but I mean, the shock was felt most by mom and dad. I still remember the phone call
Yeah.
because there had been a major snowstorm before you guys were born. The streets were not plowed the way they clean them now. I mean, when they plowed in those days, snow was patted down, so you were literally driving with chains on the car,
Oh,
on the
wow.
wheels.
They
Yeah.
didn't clear the road, they just patted the snow down?
But it wasn't cleared like it is today, so
Okay.
there was so much snow, I'll never forget it. So, when mom went into labor, Keith called the police to take her to the hospital, um, And I'll never forget the patrolman said later on that they were very happy that she waited until she got to the hospital.
Yeah, and you know what's
Um,
so funny about that? I do not know the patrolman's name, but I have met him several times in Marblehead. I don't even know if
really?
he's still alive over the years because every time I see him or saw him, he would
Yeah.
say, "I took your mother to the hospital when you guys were being
Yeah.
born." Like,
I
every time
remember
I
oh,
saw him, I'm sorry to say I don't remember his name.
I wish I remembered too. He's an old timer, obviously,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can't remember who it was. Um, but, I'll never forget, mom went into labor, she went to the hospital, dad got the call to come home. By the time he got home, um, he got the call, and he literally the color drained from his face. I'll never forget it. I remember him sitting there going, "What?" And then we all automatically thought something happened when the way he said it. And I heard him say, 2, 3, and then he gave the phone to me.
And he
And
didn't
I
faint?
said I think he was in shock,
Yeah,
and he did say, "Is she okay?" And he said, "Yep," and then he gave the phone to me, and I talked to Doctor Belock, and, he said she was doing okay, but 3
yeah.
healthy baby girls
I'm sure he
weighing
was saying
total weight, 15 pounds. Think about it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Imagine
I
that?
know.
Yeah.
a
But
Yeah.
lot.
what you said, mom would have you all feel the digits and thinking
Yeah.
something was wrong. It's just,
Yeah. Lump she used to
something I
say,
never
it
knew.
feels lumpy. It feels lumpy. And, I think she was scared because of her age. She thought something was wrong. And, she said, "Well, we'll deal with it if there was one baby that, was compromised."
Mm,
Um, but,
well,
nobody could believe it. It would made um, your birth and your photo was in the front page of the Salem News. The first live triplet birth born at Salem Hospital.
wow.
Um,
Yeah,
and,
'cause we have
like I
those things. We have those news articles.
pictures, yeah, and, like I said, the policemen were very grateful that she waited.
Mm.
Um, but, it was such an anomaly. There was so much noise in the hospital, the cleaning ladies were coming in, we giving her names because she'd said to me, "What am I gonna call them?"
What am I gonna
Oh,
name?
wow.
Oh, yeah, seriously,
No,
because she
Deb,
said,
do you know if she had one name at least picked out?
I think Heather. I think she liked Heather. Um, I forget what it was gonna be if it was a boy, I totally forget. Um, yeah, and
Great.
then, people were coming in and saying, "What about this name? What about that name?"
Wow.
Um, and yeah, and, she, of course, she thought the birth was a blessing. It was a sign from above. Um, but she didn't like I said, she ran out of names after 7 kids.
Right.
Her favorite names, but, and no, seriously, it was amazing to watch you all grow and see how you interacted with each other because it was quite comical.
But
But
I'm
I'm
glad
sure
I'm
you have
glad
probably
she
funny times. You
I
got good funny you good funny times, yeah.
I'm glad she considered it a blessing, right?
Oh god, yes. Oh my
'Cause
god,
otherwise,
yeah.
like,
Well, I mean, even,
been
she
through
had
this.
such faith, even, when she thought there might be something wrong, um, she said, "Well, we'll just deal with it."
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Take it as it comes, right? Like, nothing I
But,
can do.
you have to remember, Faith
Yeah.
was 2. So she
Wow.
had a 2-year-old in triplets. Like I
Yeah, it's
said,
a
I
lot.
don't know, I just don't understand how she did it. Yeah.
No, we've
Yeah.
talked about that a lot. The 3 of us have talked about that a lot. Just being 46 years old and having as many
I
kids
know.
as she had, a 2-year-old
Yeah,
at home already. Yeah, and then
yeah,
you said, Deb, today it would be considered a geriatric high-risk pregnancy, which
absolutely,
it's just
And in
not
a
absolutely.
time and in a time when fertility drugs weren't a thing, right? I mean, she had
Yeah. And
natural
what's so funny? When I tell
natural
people I had just 10 kids as triplets, they go, "Oh, did she take fertility drugs?" I go, "Why would anybody with 7 children
I wanted to
take
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 fertility drugs?"
fertility drugs.
I mean,
doesn't make any
the
sense.
Exactly.
You have a
idiocy,
problem
the
getting
idiocy of what some people are just,
I tried.
blows my mind.
Pregnancy wasn't a problem.
Not a
So
problem.
so
"Oh,
Deb,
she's pregnant again." She
we
wasn't smoking when I knew she wasn't smoking. I knew she was
That's
pregnant. I'd say, "Are you
yeah.
pregnant, mom?" She'd go, "Yeah." Or the smell of the smell of coffee. Was it coffee she couldn't tolerate? Yeah, I could never tolerate pea soup. I walked in the house one time when I was pregnant, she was making pea soup, and I thought I was gonna, yeah,
Vomit.
lose it. Yeah,
Yeah.
she couldn't the smell of coffee turned her off.
Mm.
Coffee and cigarettes, she couldn't.
So
Yeah.
Deb, so we've heard you talk, about mom and a little bit about dad and how she was when dad passed. But can you talk a little bit about, the impact of the loss of our parents on you?
Yeah, sure. Well, at my age, the one thing I know for sure, the only thing for sure in life is death and taxes. Um, seriously,
Mhm.
right? We expect that there's gonna be losses in our lives, but the loss of your parents is the loss of your history, right? No matter what age, losing your parents affects your identity, your sense of security, and your family structure, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Um, and I lost them as an adult, which is different than losing them as an adolescent. I expected them to be around to watch our careers, enjoy our grandchildren, so I felt robbed, but
Mhm.
grateful that I had them for as long as I did. I felt very sad about that you kids were left without parents. Yeah.
What was your age when dad passed and also when mom passed?
Okay, let me think about that.
Yeah.
Um,
We were 22. We had
hold
just
on.
turned 22 when mom
13.
we were 13 when we were
Okay.
13 when dad passed, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
13
I
dad
get
you were
that correct.
33, Deb, you were 33
Yeah,
probably
I
when
was
dad passed?
33.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and then
When
we were
dad
20
died.
you were
Yeah,
52, I guess, when and I mean
yeah,
42.
42,
42 when
42.
mom passed.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah.
definitely, yeah. Um, you know, um, but, Mac and I had suffered the loss of Matthew 5 years earlier,
Mhm.
uh,
Wow. Yeah,
than,
devastating.
than dad's sudden death, so I knew early loss,
Yeah.
heartbreak,
Yeah, heartbreak.
uh,
Words don't even describe the
but I still had my
devastating.
parents at the time,
Yeah.
you Um,
Was that a
you
source
you
of,
know
like, feeling comfort, like, just knowing that you had your parents at that time?
Oh god, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you imagine you be going through that without parents? Yeah. Um,
No. Yep.
yeah, but, you guys were still developing your identity and your autonomy when dad died, you were 14. I mean, god, I'll never forget that day. I'm sure you don't. I think we all felt anger that dad died at 59 and left mom with the task of raising them, you guys. And then she passed when you guys were graduating college. So,
Yeah.
you weren't fortunate enough to have them around as long as the older kids did.
Yeah.
So they missed a lot of milestones. You missed a lot of milestones. Um, but you guys had a very close-knit group of friends, which I think was a great support to you.
Shout out
Um,
to the BFFs.
yeah,
BFFs.
yeah. And you guys have been able to remain close and lean on each other for support through different stages of your life. So you've been lucky in that respect.
Yeah, I think we always talk a little bit about, maybe the reason that the 3 of us were brought into the world together was so that we always had, you know, each other to walk side by side, right? Because mom and dad left our lives when we were so young.
That could be the plan. That could have
At
been the
least, I
plan.
mean,
We
that's
don't know.
sometimes how I think about it, but, um,
You just
yeah.
never know. Yeah. No, but I hope that you all felt supported and mentored, and that we were always available, as you grew and matured. Sadly, the only grandchildren the dad knew were mine, and mom knew mine, Keith, and Pam's.
Mhm. I know.
I mean,
It's so
little
interesting.
Steph was just born. Little Steph was just born, right? When mom died.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
She
thing,
was
something
yeah.
that she was, you're right, because she was 3 years old
She was
at
born in 1990.
my wedding. Yeah, yeah, she was the flower girl, so and mom would have died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I literally remember being in the shower at Boston College and my roommate barging into the bathroom screaming that that Pam had a little girl. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Pam had a little girl and she has red hair." So I don't know who I don't know who told her. I was like, "Okay, well,
Oh, yeah.
le let me just finish taking my shower and I'll come out and answer the answer the call."
Um, red hair.
I
I don't
remember
remember
it so
Stephanie
well.
having red hair.
That's what mom apparently had called and said, "Pam had a little girl and she has red hair."
She
Maybe
had a
maybe
little
maybe it
oh,
was important to mom.
I don't know. Who knows?
No, yeah. I mean, Deb, I was just gonna say one thing that's kind of interesting, and the 3 of us have talked about it, just that, when you lose your parents again, in our big family, sometimes it is a little bit difficult from our perspective because you had your family, Pam had her family, Steph,
Yeah.
Mark, like everybody had their own individual families. So you feel like without those parents to bring everybody together, sometimes it was hard for us to, you know, feel like we were kind of all together and supported at different times, just because of that dynamic.
Yeah, good point, Hev. Deb, is there anything else you want to say about, the loss of your parents?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
No, I
thanks,
don't
Deb.
think
That
so.
was really awesome and insightful. And, I think for us, losing our parents, felt similar, tragic. Um, you know, uh, Obviously, it stays with you for the rest of your life, right? Like, I always say, like, losing mom and dad is like losing a piece of your heart that never really gets filled. Um,
Yeah.
but having said that, I think
Actually, when I think about it, Dad asked me about a week before he died, um, what an echocardiogram was
uh,
because,
mm,
doctor found him to have an echocardiogram, and I said, "Well, are you having symptoms?" "Oh, no, he wants me to have an echocardiogram," and I said, "Well, usually you're having symptoms." So he must have been having symptoms and not he always eating drinking Maalox, so, he probably had a heart condition that was undiagnosed, but nowadays, if you had any symptoms, you go right to the cath lab. I mean, it's just the way it is. Like, that
yeah,
just
it's a
goes to
different
show you
time.
how medicine has
Of
changed.
course.
I said to him, "When are you having it?" He goes, "Well, I haven't scheduled it yet." So, but
I mean, I told
it's just
Heather and Heidi, like, a week before dad passed, he picked me up at Amy Eldridge's house because he was just going into the library, which is,
yeah,
obviously where he spent so much time. He picked me up on a Sunday at Amy's house. I met him at the library, got into the car, and he was holding the wheel, and he was having a very difficult time catching his breath. And I immediately thought, "There's something wrong." And, 5 days
yeah,
later, he had a massive coronary heart attack. So I think he knew something was wrong,
yeah,
but
I
unfortunately, it was just a different time, and he probably thought he
do
had
too.
time.
Yeah, I do too, you know.
And Hyde has said that too, right, Hyde? That dad was definitely sick for a period of time before he passed.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, the walks that we would go on, at night, and he would always you guys remember, like, we'd walk up to, like, Peaches Point and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
he'd always kind of, like, have to stop periodically and kinda, like, hold,
Yeah.
it's like was it his left shoulder kind of,
I think
and
it's
it's
Yeah,
left,
like
yeah.
and that I mean, he was doing that, like, I mean, hope probably same time frame as you, like, a week or so before he passed away,
Yeah.
so
In
you
the
kinda
morning, Hy
thought, like
I mean, you guys remember the morning that he died? Do you remember saying goodbye to him? I just remember going into the bedroom, and he was sitting on the edge of his bed, and Steph was living in the house still, and he was like, "Can you get Steph?" Were you guys with me, or was that just me?
I
that
don't
was
remember.
you. I don't think I've ever heard this.
Yeah, I went into the bedroom to say goodbye just before I went to school, and he was sitting on the edge of his bed, in his white T-shirt, in his underwear,
Mhm.
and asked, he looked like he was having a hard time breathing, and he asked if I could get Stephanie.
And did you get her?
I don't remember, honestly. Like,
Okay.
I don't know if he had gotten her or called for her or asked me to get him. I just remember him saying he wanted Steph.
So
So,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That was the morning that he died.
yeah. And ironically,
wow.
you told a story about being picked up at the library, and he died at the library.
And
Um,
s and Deb, ironically, when he did die, you
and Stephanie
Mhm.
came to the middle school to get Heidi, Heather, and myself, and I was outside playing I was, like, playing flag football in PE. It was my last period of the day, and I saw the 2 of you go into the gymnasium area, which is where the nurse was. I'm
I go
forget
good one.
Yeah, which is where Mrs. Goodwin's
Yes,
office
Mrs.
was,
Goodwin, yeah, yeah.
and I went in, we were supposed to have a field hockey game. I went into the locker room, and I came out, and Mrs. Goodwin said, "Your sisters wanna see you." And even though, the Sunday before he was having a hard time breathing, even though the morning of his passing, he was having a hard time breathing, when she said, "Your sisters wanna see you," and I walked into that office and Heather and Heidi were already there,
You thought it
I
was mom.
I immediately thought it was mom.
And so did I when Mac and I went o I was off that Friday, and I remember, Mac and I took a ride, went out to lunch, and then went over to have tea with Fallon and saw the cars there, and I saw
So you
Stephanie
hadn't
came
known
out.
yet, Deb, when you
No,
pulled up to
no,
the house?
no, I didn't know. Stephanie came out, and I said, "Is mom?" And she said, "Yeah." That was it.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. And, of course,
crazy.
mom's death was longer. She spent, months at
Mhm.
Shaughnessy,
Yeah,
back in the day when you could stay in the hospital that long, but
yeah,
I spent a lot of nights with her over there. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's different,
she was
losing a
well
parent.
supported, well cared for, well cared for.
Well,
Yep.
I think the hard thing too, right, is like, no matter what age you lose your parents, again, a lot of it has to do with the quality of the relationship that you have with your parents in terms of like how sad you feel about the loss
Right,
and stuff. And it's that idea that like you're navigating like the loss here in the present, but then kind of what it means for what you'll lose in the future too, you know what I mean? Like, so it's very much like what you said, Deb, like they didn't get a chance to like, see that Amy grew up and she had,
yeah,
the success that she has and married this
yeah,
man and had these kids and
yeah,
the same for us. But I think there's also a component of it where you also recognize some of the good important things that we needed from mom and dad when we were growing up that we didn't necessarily get, not because they couldn't give it to us or didn't want to give it to us, but it just wasn't what they got given. So, yeah, it gets very layered grief.
yeah,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just always call it a
Well,
little
dad was not a very
thing.
demonstrative person, we all know.
yeah.
I I literally remember him giving me one hug in my life
When was that?
when Matthew died.
Wow, Deb.
Wow.
That's really interesting, Deb, because I do think when we were growing up, because dad had either retired or, like, semi-retired, he
Yeah,
definitely had more time with
absolutely.
and
Well, he
Yeah.
so
just he got a little softer, I think, is a better way to describe
I
it.
He
think
Maybe.
did. Oh, he did.
I think he softened up a little bit and was more emotive with
Yeah.
us and with, the older siblings in the family.
Oh, God, yes. I remember, God, Mac used to say, we'd be out and he'd say, "I gotta get you home. Your father will be waiting at the door."
Exactly.
Right? We were
I
Yeah.
was
all
a little bit
there.
terrified of dad.
The fear of God, like,
Our
Yeah,
friends
Mac would say, "I don't want
our
your father in my
our
face."
friends were also terrified of dad.
Yeah, dad with his glasses and his newspaper and his pulling his glasses
Stephanie's great.
thing.
Stephanie's great story about, outside the house, her and her friends.
oh, that
I'm
is
sure you
hysterical.
yeah, yeah.
That is the funniest
We
story.
will we will
Yeah.
have Stephanie tell that
Oh,
story
you
on
should
the
tell that
podcast.
story. I'm sure tell that story. Yeah, that kinda describes it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Deb, thank you. I mean, thank you so much for sharing what you just shared with us. It's we're so grateful for that. Um, but as you think about our family and sort of what our family taught you, either, intentionally or unintentionally about how the world works, what would you say that is?
Well, a lot of things really. Number 1, a strong sense of faith. Um, they were both devout Catholics. They both attended Catholic schools, Catholic colleges.
Yep.
The importance of education was high priority.
Mm,
Um, Dad routinely said that, once earned nobody can take your education away from you. So that was, that was high
Mhm.
importance.
Mhm.
Although you all needed to find a way to pay for it yourself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yes, for sure. Right.
For
There's the
sure,
nervous
right?
system
But I
activation.
remember, I don't know if he did it with you guys, but I remember him quizzing us at the dinner table about the state capitals, right?
Oh, yeah.
History questions, and I would always sit there like, "Oh God, don't ask me a history question."
Yeah, he was a huge history buff for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and of course, you know, um, Grace got that because she teaches history. She and
absolutely.
Harry loves history too. But her father's a big, Bill's a big history
He's a big
person.
history guy. And
Uh,
Vincent
they're
Stroud,
both,
too, very
And
yeah,
my my
yeah, they're
my
both
Hen
crazy readers.
my
Um,
Henry's a
but
huge history guy.
responsibility, helping others, paying it forward. Like I said, Nana was, she was a spitfire with a strong personality. Um, you know, she lived with us. I said she was a school teacher. She couldn't work as a teacher
she got
after
married.
she got married, and then she went to work for the city. Um, and she quietly helped others. Like I said, people would knock on the door, she'd have them in the parlor. She'd receive them in the parlor, or I can still remember her on the phone in the dining room, saying, "Well, I'll call veteran services in the morning." I mean, she'd help people.
Yeah, sounds like
Um,
she was a great resource for a lot of people.
Also, I don't know if you know this, but she also volunteered at the old prison, which is now the bridge going over from Charlestown to Cambridge. Over the bridge, the bridge that goes over to
Yeah.
Cambridge. There was a prison there.
Oh,
And she volunteered at the prison teaching illiterate guys how to read. I don't know if you knew that or not.
nope,
Um,
not at all.
yeah.
No, sounds like
Um,
she's got a super big heart, very service
yeah.
oriented.
So basically, I think maybe I got that little volunteer bug from her and dad. I volunteered my whole life in different agencies and organizations. So, I always felt you have to give back. Um, Dad certainly got it from her because he was, very active in a national veterans organization, throughout the city and the state.
We know that.
And I remember a lovely article that Jim Gallagher wrote about him for the Charlestown Patriot,
Mhm.
about him helping others. I still have that article, which was a really nice legacy.
Yeah,
Was that
all
But,
his story, Deb?
yeah, we
uh,
I have that article
you
too.
have
Yeah,
that letter?
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. But, I guess all 10 children are pretty successful. So I think that they succeeded in, even though they were here for a shorter time, I think they succeeded in raising a great family.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for everything that you shared. I'm wondering, Deb, is there anything else that you wanna add that, like, you feel like you'd like to say, but we didn't give you an opportunity to because we didn't ask the right question or
No, I don't think so. I think that, no, I think you, we covered a lot. I mean, this condensed, many years, lots of years condensed into short time.
Into a short time. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Deb, I guess I would say, and I know I speak for Heather and Heidi, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
Yeah.
sharing your, even if it's just a small piece of your story, for sharing your story. I know for me, this has been such an incredibly valuable
Yeah.
hour. Um, Not only, having the opportunity to learn more about you, but just to hear you talk about, things, stories about mom, dad, other family members, Marguerite, Brickley, that I certainly haven't heard before. So thank you so much for spending this time with me and Heather and Heidi and the rest of our fam. And fam, hopefully you've gained some insights into Deb's experience
Yeah.
growing up in our family. Next up, we're going to introduce you to the older brother, the oldest brother in the family, Vincent. He was the second child, and so we're going to talk to him next week. For now, thanks so much for listening to The Tripod. And remember, you can find us on The Tripod on all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit subscribe to follow, like us, and help spread the word. And remember, please try The Tripod.
Try us again next week where triplets are talking.